Hello everyone and welcome to Underwater Adventures with Alex Mirabal. Today we have a video which will be very fun because I know that I have plenty of friends who are in love with their metal detectors. So today we will be talking about metal detectors. Let's dive into it.
Hey everyone! If you want to watch the video in other languages, you simply click on Settings, go to Subtitles, select the subtitles in the original language, then go back to Subtitles, activate the Translate automatically, and scroll down and select your preferred language. In this case, we chose Spanish, obviously. Thank you so much all, and let's get on with the video.
The metal detector is an instrument which is vital for our work and is spreadly used in many other areas in the world. It's not only for maritime archaeology, but it's used in many areas. And I know that the owners of metal detectors, we all are, very much in love with their instrument, with the tool that they use to go metal detecting, and everyone has their favorite metal detector. So as a warning, in this video, I will not be saying which is the best metal detector to use, no, which one is good and which one is bad.
That's wise.
I will share my experience with metal detectors, working professionally with metal detectors, and how it has worked for me. We have to take into account that metal detectors like magnetometers and certain instruments who measure certain values in nature, they seem to have some personality. They seem to be moody. I give you a case. When I was working in Cuba, in Carizú, we received 5 metal detectors of the same brand and the same year of production, of manufacture, and they were all the same. We started using these metal detectors in everyday basis, and I realized that I got along much better with the number 2 from the 5. The number 2 was the one that I always wanted to use. Why? I don't know. It beeps differently. It's more near of your perception of what you are trying to find or what you're doing. It is much more comfortable to work with it. I don't know. But I'm sure that many of you will have the same feeling. My metal detector from 1984, the first one I bought, that is the one that has been the best. So in this video, we will not be talking which one is the best one or not the best one. We all love our metal detectors and everyone has the results it wants with its own metal detector. But we will talk about some principles, how to use it better, and how my experience has been using this instrument. First, we will be talking about mainly the pulse induction metal detector, because there are various types like very low frequency and there are other metal detectors, but the one that we use more in shipwrecks and under the water and even to scan in beaches and in terrain in the countryside, there are most of them pulse induction. How a metal detector works, it's important to know how an instrument works to take the better out of it, so you understand better how it works and what it's telling you. The metal detector is simple. It has a coil, this ring that everyone knows that you're swapping over the ground or the seabed in the case of when working on shipwrecks or looking in the beaches for rings and chains and stuff. It has this coil. The metal detector sends current to this coil and creates an electromagnetic field around the ring. This electromagnetic field, when there is an object, even if it's on the sand or on the ground, that is conductive, you will pass this magnetic field that is created by the current that you send to the coil and will disrupt it. And then you will get a reading. That is the basic principle. There are plenty of tweaks and plenty of developments that have been made, but this is the principle.
Let me just ask out of my ignorance with this type of thing. So the magnetic field will catch whatever type of metal. The fact that it disrupts it, you know that it's a metal because metals disrupt magnetic fields?
Because metals are conductive.
Conductive, okay.
So
yeah.
if it's a piece of plastic, it will not disrupt this electromagnetic field because the current will not pass through it.
Okay, understood.
So that is what happened, that if you have a piece of silver,
Yeah.
the current that you are generating there in this electromagnetic field, it will go through it and then it will lose value in your coil.
Okay, I understand. So it kind of removes some of the magnetic field.
Depletes a little bit the magnetic field, and that the instrument will read it.
Got it.
What happened with this? And this is something that all metal detector operators should have in mind for all the divers. Now, I will be talking a little bit more about the underwater metal detecting because it's the one I do when we are working in shipwrecks. You have to take into account that this coil, it generates this electromagnetic field. It's not just going down. So the metal detector not only detects underneath the coil. This is some perception people have that, okay, everything which is under the coil, it will detect it. Okay, also over the coil in the same proportion. This electromagnetic field, it has the shape of a sphere.
So it's a 3D sphere.
Exactly. It's a sphere that it will have the diameter of your coil.
Yeah.
So it goes up in the same proportion that it goes down.
And to the sides.
And to the sides, and
not as much.
Very much in the limit of the coil itself.
Yeah.
But a little bit over that.
Yeah.
There are plenty of samples in which you detect something which is by the side of the metal detector and not underneath.
Yeah.
And you're trying to locate the object and it's in one side. So when you know that how the detecting shape of the magnetic field you created with the metal detector is, then the better you understand where the object or the target could be. I have to come through some, because metal detectors are so loved for their owners that they are also very full of myths and misconceptions that I come across every day with friends, not very skilled or very experienced operators of metal detector, but people who are just curious about metal detectors. I will start by one. Metal detectors don't take you to the object. That is one doubt that many of my friends have, and they have told me simply, Alex, but your job is not that difficult, man, because you go with the metal detector, you switch it on, and then it goes and takes you where the object is. Well, it's not like that. I even have one example of one guy who went to a company I work in Cuba. The company had the license also to search for treasure in land, not only in the water and study shipwrecks, but also to search for treasure in land. And this man arrived there and said, I know where is the treasure. I know where it is. It's an abandoned house in the countryside, in the fields. I can take you there. So the company sent me and another friend with a metal detector in a car, 1.5 hour drive. We arrived to a place. He said, it's here. Actually, there was a very old abandoned house where supposedly rich people live in the past, and they had buried the treasure. And and then we arrived there. We went down from the car, and the guy say, it's here. Here was a cornfield. Was a cornfield of 2 hectares. And he said, it's somewhere here. And I said, and how do you expect me to find it if it's somewhere there? He said, just switch on that thing and it will take you where it is.
Of course.
So, he obviously, and some people confuse metal detectors with dogs, hounds, things that can actually go and show you where the object
Truffle
is.
pigs.
Truffle pigs. But okay, it's not like that. You really need to pass the metal detector over the object at the right distance, because also it's not infinite. It will have a penetration according to the size of this magnetic field that has created, depending on the diameter of the coil and the type of battery you're using and everything. So it's not also that you will not miss anything that you are scanning for. One other thing that is good to have in mind when you're detecting in the water is that even if you see that your coil is this size, as I mentioned, the detecting field would be like a dome underneath, like a half sphere, or sometimes a cone. But even if you see that your coil is covering a certain area of the seabed, at this depth, you are not scanning this area. You're scanning a point, because it goes like this down. You are exploring just a little piece of under seabed at that depth. Meaning that if you have a coin or if you have any metallic object, lead shot, a nail, here you put in the metal detector over it, not guarantee that you will detect it. You really have to go slowly. It's like when you go to a doctor and they put this stethoscope on you. It's really a very careful work to do.
So the deeper the object, perhaps the harder because of the magnetic field going kind of in a cone, in a funnel shape.
Yeah, correct. If you're detecting in the limit of the reach of your metal detector, what you are actually searching is...
The area is very small.
The area is very small. So you have to picture that when you are scanning a certain area, you have to picture that and try to cover it with this center underneath to actually cover the area.
Yeah.
Not that you put the coil on the ground and said, okay, this area is done.
Yeah.
There is nothing in it.
Understood. Yeah.
So this is very helpful for the metal detector operator to have in mind. Another one is that there are different kinds of processing the signal metal detectors. Metal detectors are built in different ways, and some process the signal different than others. There are one type who will read the difference in the value of this magnetic field, meaning that they will read the delta, the difference between two values. And the other one will read and will give you signal by the absolute value. This is important. Why? Because the one that reads the delta or the difference, it reads the difference, and that one you need to move it to get the signal that you have found a metallic object.
Yeah.
If you leave it over the metallic object, then stops, because there is no difference. There is the same value. And there is the one who give you the signal, the audible signal, because of the absolute value. In the case of the shipwrecks, this is important to know which kind of metal detector you're using, because there are, in the reef shipwrecks, there are many moments in where you have corals and rocks, and you are not able to move your metal detector freely because it will hit the rock or will hit the coral colony. So you have sometimes no space to move your metal detector, so you will be inhibited to read the difference in values. So you need one that when you put it in one place and sense a metal object, it stays ringing till the moment that you find the object, that you don't need to be moving it, because it's very difficult. In theory, the size of the coil will give you, the bigger the coil is, the deeper it should go, because of these things that I explained of the magnetic field. The bigger the coil is, the deeper it should detect objects. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, because also to give this magnetic field the power, you need a certain type of battery. And sometimes they sell you a metal detector with a big coil that's supposed to penetrate much in the ground, but the batteries are the same that you're using with a smaller coil. So at the end, you don't get this performance one by one. I mean, it's not proportional what you get because your coil is larger. We have used plenty of metal detectors, different type of coils, and they all behave slightly differently. Another important thing that you have to take into account is that as this coil, it will detect down, but will detect up. It happens to us a lot, and it was very surprised when it happened to me the first time, because I have to learn how to deal with that. If you are in a very shallow water wreck and you are scanning the seabed for artifacts, and then it comes a massive wave over you, this difference in the amount of water you have over you will reflect in the metal detector, and it will give you a hit. It will give you a noise, because as you know, salt water is full of metals as well, in very tiny proportions, but it's full of metals. So this instrument is also capable of reading that, and then it will come this way and will give you what we call a ghost hit, so a hit that doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
This takes me to another point. There are some metal detectors who have discrimination capacity built in their processor, that you can discriminate and you can set a zero, a threshold, in which you will detect over that. Why is this important? In a shipwreck, you may have a pile of ballast stones. Ballast stones are highly mineralized. The metal detector detect them.
Yeah.
So you will have...
So it can be a rock or it can be an actual coin.
Absolutely. And you can go, and this metal detector will not stop beeping the entire area, and you don't know what to do.
And if you have a coin under a ballast stone, good luck.
You will lose it.
You'll lose it. You won't think that it's... Yeah.
If you set your metal detector with the threshold, your zero line, in the ballast stones, then it will detect detect whatever is stronger than that.
Yeah, got it.
Some of the metal detectors that I have worked with, they are so good at this. I mentioned the ballast stones, but you have plenty of times the fact that the area of the wreck is full of lead shot or musket balls or little copper pins. There is a lot of little material that it will take you forever to scan a big area because you will be stopping every second.
So actually, it's quite useful to have that kind of metal detector where you can fine tune what the baseline is and then just records whatever hits higher than your baseline. So you would have to do a survey to find your baseline and then, search, I don't know if survey is the correct word.
Yes.
To know what your baseline would be, set it up, and then start the expedition or the actual survey.
Yes, but you do that. No, it may sound more complicated than what it is because you change it depending on the metal detector you have.
Yeah.
You change this setting 5 times during a dive.
During
the same dive.
Okay.
You get here, you select the kind of seabed you want to eliminate, and you set it there.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Not all of the seabed has the same...
It's not homogeneous.
Yeah, got it.
So you get different patches in which you will want to have different settings for your metal detector. In my case, for instance, I know there are metal detectors that come with that from... And there are other metal detectors which I have been lucky enough to know the manufacturers, and I asked them to create, to include this device for me, like a potentiometer, so I can actually set it up more accurately as I need. And I was mentioning this because there are some of these metal detectors which are so good at this that I have found this, it may sound like a fisherman's story, but I have found one silver coin attached to a cannon. You have a cannon which has a mass of 750 kilos, because now I'll tell you why that some ringing sounds strong and less strong. Huge mass of iron on the cannon, and I have switched that off, so make my threshold, my zero, like this will not read it, and then pass it on the cannon and give me a very faint beep. When you do that, it also loses sensitivity. So you have to be very careful. Well, we have found coins attached to larger metallic objects with this feature of the metal detector. Another of the myths that they're always going around is that the metal detector could tell apart different metals. Okay, I don't want to get into confrontation with anyone, but in principle, yes, different metals have different atomic formation, that they have different structures, they conduct the electricity in different ways. They are better conductors than others, but that is very difficult to tell apart when you're working, because the strength of the signal that you will get in the metal detector, the pitch of the sound or the frequency of the beep 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 that you will get, it depends on many factors. It's not only the material in which the object is made, it depends on the mass of the object, depends on the distance. Remember, you are not seeing the object is underneath, you don't know how far it is. So something which is small and is very close to the seabed
can beep really high.
It will give you a very strong signal, and something bigger and larger, but it's very deep into the seabed, will give you a smaller signal. So I have always been suspicious. Technology has changed, I understand that, but I have always been suspicious of these metal detectors that have the scale in front of you that said copper, lead, silver, gold. I wouldn't trust it 100%. Many of you that are watching this video will have a different idea. Please let me know in the comment section. But also, you may have experienced that some things have ring as if they were gold and they ought being a different thing. Not only these factors, you have even more complex. The shape of the objects is important as well. A ring will give you a stronger signal than a coin, because the parasite currents it creates around it. It will be like a second coil.
Yeah, because it's the same shape. It kind of like reverberates, I would think, the signal.
It will give you a stronger signal than an object in the same size but solid.
That kind of, I don't know anything about this.
Physics.
That kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That's the basic physics that I know.
Exactly.
Makes sense to me.
Exactly. So there are so many factors to take into account for a signal in the metal detector to tell you something that is a little bit risky to either discard a reading that you have in the sieve, discard it because it doesn't sound attractive enough, or to make priority in one that it sounds stronger. It's well, at least in archaeology you cannot do that. I mean, you have to investigate each of the signals that you get in the metal detector. But if you are beachcombing and you are in the beach going with your metal detector, you also don't want to miss anything of the potential scenes you can find and said, this one, it didn't sound too strong. Maybe it's deeper. Maybe it's not the same. A coin will not give you the same signal if it's like this or if it's like this. So there are many factors to take into account. That's why I find difficult to handle the fact that some manufacturers tell you this will be gold, this will be silver, this will be... In my experience, it doesn't work like that. Another important thing when you are working with metal detectors under the water is to take into account that it's very useful for you, it's very necessary that you actually can pinpoint the object that you are detecting. Remember, it is under the ground, you don't see it, and then you got a hit. And then you really try to make everything necessary. I do it in form of a cross. There is people who do it differently, but as long as you know well your metal detector and you have your system properly established, you want to pinpoint where exactly the object is under the ground. Because you will understand, it's very frustrating that you select the wrong point and then you spend 2.5 hours hammering rocks to try to get to the object, and it was 5 centimeters to the left, and then it's another 2.5 hours hammering the rock 5 centimeters.
And then it's a ballastone.
Yeah, and then it's a piece of lead sheeting from the hull.
Yeah.
So in the maritime archaeological survey, you cannot take things really lightly. You have to go, if you are excavating in a beach, it's sand, you make a hole here and there's nothing, and then you move the metal detector, it's 5 centimeters on the other side, no problem, you open it, it's sand. But whoever of you have crossed to hard seabed or hard soil anywhere, you will not want to regret opening the hole in the wrong place. So I know many of my community of you people who watch the videos are into the metal detecting thing. My friend Alison Walker, she has a lot of experience. I will leave in the comments the link to her YouTube page, because there you will see much more information and better technical information of metal detectors than what I had just given now. And please go to the comments. Tell me, what do you think? I bet that most of you own metal detectors. Which are the brands that you're using? Why do you think this brand is better than the other? If I say something that you consider that is terribly wrong, please let me know as well. We will talk about that, or I may change my mind regarding this. So stay connected and keep on diving.